So, Carefree Wandering, Professor Muller's YouTube channel, threw up a video about wokeism and discussed contemporary politics and society as a new religious awakening, or especially in the American context, a kind of great awakening. And he thinks that the American civil religion, and he references like the sociologist Robert Bellah, who wrote a great book about that, but this American civil religion is taking these two forms of intensified forms of like Trumpism and Wokeism, you could say, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he's probably going to take some heat from, social justice activists for using the term wokeism, even, because that's usually a conservative.
It's like pejorative,
like diss or attack. But he's also going to take heat because it's as if he's trying to criticize wokeism, and he is taking a critical posture. Questioning whether, we really can make all the assumptions that underlie, the wokist mentality. But he's not saying it's wrong, necessarily.
Yeah.
But we were talking about earlier how it seems like Professor Muller leaves us in this neutral posture that isn't actually moving the evolution of consciousness forward.
Do you want to explain why? Or just what you said about Kant earlier?
Yeah, well, he said that Kant is still relevant today because Kant allows us to take a critical stance on the dogmas of the day and not replace dogmas, existing dogmas with better dogmas, but to question metaphysics as such and inhabit this more epistemologically reflective space of, transcendental, reflection, where you're looking for the conditions of possibility for beliefs in whatever, the soul or God or justice or equality, whatever it is, rather than believing those things. So you take you're stepping back from the world to observe its conditions of possibility. And he seems to, and I agree, and I think we both agree, right? That's like an invaluable ability.
Yes. Yeah. It's the bracketing.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not a solution to our political problems.
No.
So how do we make that transition to actually trying to talk about the solution?
Well, I think it's complicated because it takes time. And by that I mean to bracket out assumptions, and then, to the extent that one can, then what I've come to think is the next thing to do is to listen to and observe the world and let it teach you, like Goethe. And so, but that takes time. It doesn't happen all at once. But we can start doing it now, and it can have a contagion effect.
By it takes time, do you mean
to transform you?
Individually, or historically it takes generations to...
Well, I think it's both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's an educational problem, ultimately.
Yes. It's a problem that is related to, the human being knowing oneself.
Well, maybe we're so obsessed with knowing, we forgot how to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe we need more
I think
of this attitude of not knowing so that we can know. So rather not knowing so we can learn. we seem to already arrive in every situation with a set of beliefs that we have confirmed already are true. And we try to make the world that shows up to us, make the people who we encounter in every interaction conform with the beliefs we already have about the world.
Yeah. It's automatic.
Whether it's wokeism or Trumpism, it's, as Kant would say, sort of a priori categories of understanding in terms of which we describe the world, and we don't even know that we've established those categories. We just apply them.
Yeah. That's why I guess the exercises in the bracketing are important.
Right. So that's a really important contribution that Professor Muller is making, right?
Yeah, I think so. I found it really refreshing.
We should go back to Kant.
Well, we should at least recognize that Kant is still not surpassed, at least among a lot of discourse.
Right.
In a lot of discourse. So it's like bringing Kant up, or basically like unveiling what's already here.
So what if, I think there are still some dogmas operating in the Kantian framework.
Yeah.
Right? It's not transcendental enough, you might say.
And it's also not particular enough.
Well, that's one of the assumptions. It's Kant was assuming the universality of male European consciousness.
Yes.
Of 18th century male, or late 18th century male European consciousness, and maybe that's not as universalizable as he thought it was.
Yeah. That's why I think actually, we just watched a little bit of that other person's video that was about Muller's video, where he just started to say that he disagreed with Muller when he said that he didn't think that wokeism is postmodern at all. And so this guy was going to suggest that it was, and I'm sure it's more complex than that, his perspective, but I think there is something, when he's talking about that, there is I guess the particular is like really emphasized in identity politics and social justice, and almost to like, especially like, in anthropology, I think right now, like the pluralism and the ontological politics, that's like, that's postmodern to me.
Right. So postmodernism is such a
but it's like
huge thicket of thinkers and ideas, and
it's like chaos.
It is chaotic. It's pluralistic. Some would say relativistic. But this idea that it's particular, that it's focused on the particular, and it's true, and what's been marginalized by this Enlightenment march of reason to categorize everything.
And the universalizing of that consciousness.
Right. And that's crucial for emancipation. So actually the same Enlightenment value that was driving a universal reason is still what's driving postmodernism.
Yeah, it's just being purified, basically. Kind of like what you were talking about with Whitehead, that there's like this historical progression of the ingression of the idea.
Of freedom.
Yeah, of freedom, or any idea, right?
Yeah.
So like the value of the particular is related to freedom.
It is. And so, but at least wokeism is really concerned with the collective too, and identity is not just of individuals but of groups. But there is this, and Muller was talking about this too, like what was the phrase that he kept referencing, unapologetically me, this attitude of in the CIA commercial, this woman of color being unapologetically herself as an employee of this imperial state, military intelligence agency that has assassinated hundreds of democratically elected leaders over the years. So it's like such a strange sort of juxtaposition in that ad. But in any event, the meanness, like, there's a, like, it's the place where wokeism and neoliberal capitalism overlap, I think. Because you get that same sort of phrasing in, like, Coca-Cola
Maybe you should say
commercials.
that's where identity politics and
yeah,
what was the other
capitalism.
one? Capitalism, and the convergence is wokeism, because it's not identity politics that is bad, right? It's
right. It's not wokeism. It's not about being bad.
It's not about being bad, but
it's
what is being critiqued.
Yeah, it's just disambiguating the values that are actually being expressed, so that we can see more clearly what it is that we want and how best to achieve it.
Yeah. What puts us towards the good?
Yeah. What allows us to ingress the good more fully into actuality. And sometimes religious emotion and passion is, it requires further purification by thought, which is the place of philosophy. Yeah, it's not that anything's bad, it's just,
yeah, it's a bad habit in my language.
Yeah, so I guess Kant is super important to bring us back to this more reflective position in relation to culture, and even in relation to perception and belief.
Yes.
So that we can then, from this new position of leverage, the transcendental position, transform our perception and our culture, transform our society.
Yeah.
And Kant, he just inaugurated the reflective posture to, like, okay, pause, step back. And then I think a lot of the thinkers who came after him, like Fichte and Schelling and Hegel and Goethe even, who was a reader of Kant, but also affirmed a form of perception, like metamorphosis of cognition, that Kant didn't allow.
Yeah.
And Goethe really, like, just, he took things further after Kant. And you were saying Goethe is a good model for how we actually change the world and not just reflect on it, or how we can participate.
Yeah. I think I was just appreciating when you said all their names, just the significance of that time period and that place and all those people. It's just kind of amazing that all happened. That intensity of speculation.
Yeah, I think a kind of consciousness broke through for a time, and it's not like they maintained it. I think it was in the early 1800s, late 1700s. Because then when you see Hegel and Schelling, they're older, they're more mature works. I'm not as impressed. I mean, they're brilliant, still brilliant, but there's something that happened, and that, like, that was the romantic
in their writing
movement. That was, Whitehead calls it the romantic reaction to Enlightenment rationality. Yeah, so I guess we just wanted to try to add the German idealists to the Kantian picture that Professor Muller presented. We do need to understand the Copernican turn in philosophy, and then we need to turn back to the earth. And be geocentric again, because you can't just hang out in that reflective space. You have to turn back to the earth, to other people, and find a path forward. And so I like what you said about education as being key to this, is just not like going to school, but like the attitude of learning. Paideia, culture as paideia. Like every opportunity, like life is for learning.
Everyone.
For everyone. Yeah.
There needs to be for everyone.
Because it's only if you can be open to learning that we can successfully maintain a multicultural democracy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be constantly open to understanding others.
Yeah.
And interested,
Mm-hmm.
not just tolerant of them, but interested in them, because you want to learn. What else? I mean, you want to learn more about what it means to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different ways, so you want to learn from all the different people.
Yeah. It could be like a utopian garden.
All right, let's not get carried away.
Flowers. Every human has become themselves.